Of course, I'm a little bit anxious because I've got an entirely different setup.
Oh, of course.
Which includes a beer and cold pizza.
Oh, delicious. Because you are in Italy. You've just got back from, I want to say Cagliari. Is that correct?
No, it's not.
Calgary. Calvary? Did you just come down off the cross?
I did. That's I've returned. I had a good idea. I had a great idea. I thought I would take the day off work without telling my boss.
How did that go down?
Well, the problem was that I went to Cagliari and saw my boss there, so she found out.
Was she also having the day off?
I think she's actually off properly.
Oh, she's properly off, so she's on holiday. What are the chances?
I know, and I couldn't resist it's a bit of a trek, bit of a schlep down there. It's 3 hours on the train, so I got up early and spent a bit of time on the train today. But it was lovely. It's also seeing someone in a place that you don't normally see them. It's it's really nice. But yes, I gave up my how do I say? I gave myself away. I gave myself up. No, I gave the game away, yeah. This is a podcast in which two friends talk about the pleasures, absurdities, and imperfections of being human. I'm Simon Ellis.
And I'm Lee Miller. Welcome to Midlifing.
So yes, I went to Cagliari, and you don't want to say Cagliari because the verb cagare in Italian.
It means to poop.
Yes, and so it sounds a little bit like you're trying to you're mincing up a So don't.
Yeah, don't mince up a poop.
And
unless you.
There we are. Are you okay? You sound like you're very busy.
I am. I am okay. I am busy. It's not that I'm so overwhelmingly busy. It's just that my freedom hasn't kind of lined up with your freedom.
It's true. We and that was partly on a lack of planning on my part a few weeks back when I just realised I was running out of days before I left. And doing this when I was in Rome, I spent a week in Rome, was always going to be a bit tricky just because of, living circumstances, etc.
Yes. Yeah. It was simply that I just had a lot of things that went on until quite late in the evening. They didn't go on until late in the evening, but I live 2 hours away from work. And some of the things that I had to do were in person, and it just meant, I'm going to now be spending the next 2 hours travelling. And I just, and then it only takes a little bit of travel chaos, and that too becomes 3 or whatever.
Oof.
So,
and we shouldn't, we can't faff around because we're basically doing our homework the night before it's due, aren't we?
Oh God, yeah, today's Tuesday. Yeah, we are.
So we shouldn't be, it should be all killer, no filler.
Well, that ship sailed. But yeah.
Have you?
I will edit as quick as I can.
Yes, no problem. And I can stay up as long as it takes. I can pull an all-nighter for midlifers.
Oh, wowzers. Because we let them down last week. I'm so sorry, midlifers.
Yes, we particularly did because I couldn't remember a word, and you're normally the person that helps me remember words. So there was some radio silence there while I was trying to remember the word, which I didn't.
Well, we live, we learn. Tell me, do you have anything in your brain? As in a topic, not as in, a parasite.
I do. I do.
Ooh.
First of all, have you watched Sex Education? No.
Okay, I'm going to disappoint you in that I've watched the first episode.
Right. So we can't.
And then I had no real desire to watch any more.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
I felt very okay, this ship has sailed for me. I was done. But I will return to it, I promise,
Can you-
so that we can talk about it.
No, it's okay, but can you say why it was?
I think it's a collection of things. I think it felt like, okay. There's been an honesty even in the archness of it in the first 3 seasons. And it just felt as if, when I was watching this one, it had been designed by committee.
Ooh.
Almost as if they were going, well, this is our last series, so let's make sure we hit all of the right notes. And it just felt a little overplayed, I guess. And I couldn't quite settle with it.
Do you
So
mean the
it might be
utopia?
me.
Do you mean the politically correct utopia?
I mean, no, I don't. Maybe it was that. No, I don't think it was. It just. Okay. While the world was unrealistic, I felt that the performances had a level of authenticity that allowed me to relax.
Aye,
And
you
I
mean in the previous
didn't-
seasons?
In the previous seasons. And in this one, it felt as if that had disappeared.
So I know we're not TV and film critics, just to be clear, but
No,
you
we're
are.
not.
You know, you've been a professional actor.
Badly, but yes.
And
And I've also been paid to
teach
analyse
others.
television for a living.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I also did that.
yes. So actually, you're quite. Your credentials are certainly better than mine in this particular. So is that about, in your opinion, is that about the? Is that a scripting problem, a directing problem, or just about the actors bumping into the limits of their abilities?
No, I don't think it's about the actors bumping into the limits of their abilities, because I think that
You've
they are
already
very
seen them to
capable.
be. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen them do it. I mean, it would be really, really hard to make a judgment based on one episode and without any context of how the show was made.
But go on.
There's a little bit. Well, there's a little bit of me that maybe wonders: did they all know that this was effectively going to be their last season, and were they trying to recapture something to make sure that it was great?
You mean the people
And-
making the
and-
show?
That everybody, and it just means that there was a little bit of trying too hard. And it's kind of like when you go out and you say, we're going to have fun, and you rarely have fun.
It was basically a Return of the Jedi.
I guess it probably was.
Without
a
the
little bit
Ewoks,
that
which
for
of
me.
course...
I really liked the Ewoks when I was little, so I struggle to have a problem with them, because it came out when I was what?
It was 81.
81. Oh, God, no, I wasn't 11. What am I talking about? I was 8.
Yeah, 77 was the first one. Was that right?
Seven?
Maybe 83
Seven
was
or
the
eight.
third one. Oh,
I think it was 83. Oh, gosh.
if only,
I think
if only
81
we
was
could
Empire
find
Strikes
out.
Back.
I think
Yeah,
you're right. I think
if only.
83. I think 83 is, but still, you're only 10.
Empire's... Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I think I was probably still the demographic for an Ewok. I wasn't old enough to be cynical. I just thought they were cute.
Yeah, I was
They're
13, and wait, 83.
Oh.
No, I was 15. Way past the
Yeah,
Ewoks.
way too old. Way too old to be an Ewok. You wouldn't have... Yeah, you probably wouldn't have cried over E.T.
I was
either.
profoundly fantasizing over Princess Leia by that stage. That's for sure. No, I did cry.
Oh, that totally missed me. I just didn't get it. I mean, I was in love with Princess Leia from 1977. Well, 1978 is when it was released in the UK. But in that way that, 4-year-old boys are in love with grown women.
I'd love to know what is that way.
Well, in the way that you are taught to be in love with somebody rather than you are in love with them. You are performing that sense of everybody tells you that she's what you should love. I couldn't have been in love with Luke Skywalker. I wasn't in love with Luke Skywalker. He wasn't my type.
So, no, I was definitely more... actually, maybe I saw myself as more of a Luke Skywalker than a Han Solo type. I don't think I was a smuggler. I was never a smuggler.
No, you definitely would have. You were like definitely wearing a visor and training. You were Luke Skywalker all over.
Yeah.
And I suspect, if I'm really honest, if I look into my deep, true soul, I'm probably C-3PO, really, really worried about protocol.
With really good posture and a little stiff in the joints.
Excellent fun. Oh, that's where it falls down because I'm basically elastic.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. It's true. You're like a flexible version of C-3PO.
That's me. I'm C-3PO if he was made of jelly.
He
What was your
remains still
topic?
the most still the most annoying character. Oh no, Jar Jar. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Jar Jar's worse than C-3PO.
Oh, dear.
Although, I'll be honest,
he
I
grew
would
on
always... Well, no, if I was to choose who I would be stuck in a lift with, Lando Calrissian or C-3PO, I'd pick C-3PO. Lando Calrissian made me so cross because I felt he betrayed people.
He
Even
was a
though as
traitor.
an adult, I realised... No, he was looking after an entire city of people. It was a sensible move to make. I fully understand that now as an adult. But when I was younger, I was like, there he is, wafting around in his cape and he's letting people down. I'm cross. Poor Billy D. Williams.
wafting around in his cape. Thank you for always finding titles for these shows. I fully appreciate. So, Tim, my topic is this:
Yes, go on.
2 words. I don't know. We've been doing a lot of word stuff lately.
Just do it.
Okay.
2 words. Go on.
To be reasonable, or and to be rational.
Oh, that's interesting. That is interesting because I think on first blush, one would assume that they were the same, but they're so not.
How would you describe? I don't know. Again, that's all the preparation I've done for this. Yeah, it's not like I went and studied their etymology or anything like that. But it's partly, I think, because the rational thing, being rational was something. When I grew up, I think it was quite a strong idea about being rational, and I think it hooked into gender quite a bit, that men were more rational than women. And I think huh?
I'm sorry, I'm just laughing. Not a single man I've met, but carry on.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like I might have absorbed that kind of idea. And then there was, there's sort of a backlash against in the academy, not that we ever talk about the academy, where the idea of rationalism has been associated with all sorts of things which are not good. And so there's a little bit in me which is, I have a slightly ambivalent relationship with that word. And then, so yeah, what do they do for you when you hear them?
Well, I think I find it hard to hear the word rational without hearing somebody say, we need to rationalise. And I just think, oh, you mean sack people? Okay.
Okay.
So this,
I've never been in the room when those kinds of conversations are happening. Unlike
nor have I. No, have I. No.
You will be soon, though. It's what you're aspiring to, isn't it?
It's really not the thing about rationalisation. I don't mean that I've been in a room where somebody has threatened to rationalise. It's the language, isn't it? It's the language of those kinds of decisions that get made by people with importantness.
Yes, we don't say we're going to reasonabilise.
No, we say we're going to rationalise the workforce, or we're going to rationalise provision to the NHS.
Oh my God, it is terrible, isn't it? Oh.
Yeah, because... I think that's why probably we have a sort of a jitteriness around the word rational, because it sounds like it is connected to an implicit cruelty. So I feel very sorry for kind of rational thought and the idea of that particular strand of philosophy, because I think it's
had a bad rap as a consequence of that.
Well, I think it's been it's been borrowed by people, and like all things, probably not fairly. Whereas reasonable is, what are the reasonable adjustments that you can make? As in, what's an okay thing to do? Let's be reasonable. Let's try and see this from everybody's perspective. So I think I like the word reasonable more than rational, but only because of, exactly as you say, how the words have been co-opted into other strategies.
Do you think of being rational as being more like a kind of hardness and reasonable being softer?
I think I probably do, although I suspect if we were to do the etymology, there'd be no relationship.
But that wouldn't be
therein. But
the podcast that this is.
That would be a different podcast.
I'm going to do it after we bloody get off. That's the worst part of it. Oh, I wish I'd said that.
I think. Oh, never mind. L'esprit de l'escalier. I think it is for me that one has a kind of. I'm not sure if it's softer, because that again, unintentionally. I know you didn't mean that. Has that sort of gendered narrative attached to it, and again, as if any man you have ever met has ever been rational, because we know that the behaviours that are aligned to particular types of masculinity, perhaps those that we might understand as toxic, are quite far away from being rational. They're quite irrational, and based on very, very strong emotional responses, which I find quite curious that women get hit with the "you're too emotional" stick, and yet I don't really think I've ever experienced that kind of gender disparity. I think humans are emotional. Not always. Some are, some aren't. But I certainly have never experienced it as being a gendered thing.
Yeah, or the expression of them, or the quite cultured or incultured expression of emotions, or lack of expression of emotions, as if somehow domestic violence is not an expression of power/emotion. But anyway, I've been reading a book, maybe I'm about halfway through a book called How Minds Change. It's very interesting for many reasons, but one of the things that I think I've kind of known this is that one of the things they know, meaning when I say they, I mean social psychologists, sociologists, is that changing people's minds or having our minds changed has no correlation with facts. That more education, let's say, or being given the facts does nothing to change our minds. In fact, there's a particular kind of phenomenon, and the name of which is just eluding me because that's my style on this podcast. It's called the blowback. No, it's called the what's a word? Anyway, I should look it up. But it's basically you get the opposite effect. Meaning, if we're talking about something that I care about, this doesn't hold for things that I don't, or that people don't care about. So let's say, if it's got something to do with why the sky is blue, and you get a fact about why the sky is blue, you'll change your mind immediately, because no one really cares less about the sky, the colour of the sky.
Yeah.
So that's very different if you're talking about, let's say, abortion in the United States, or pick your thing that people really care about. And that it has the opposite effect, meaning I've got a strong opinion about abortion, you give me a whole lot of facts which are which contradict the beliefs I hold about that, and what it does is it strengthens my resolve. We're crazy cats, aren't we?
We really are crazy cats. Yeah. It's sort of, yeah. I want to say it doesn't surprise me, because it doesn't, because I'm alive.
Which I'm glad about at this point, because then I have to revert to that 3-minute podcast I did last week, which was, it was hard.
I have a feeling that I am as guilty of this as anybody, but I really would like not to be.
Oh, none of us are. If anyone's listening and they think that's not them, just think again, sunshines.
So it's endemic, is it?
It's a thing.
The joy of having a brain is that we misuse it.
Well, but the other thing that he's looked at, there's a whole lot of thing called, I think it's called deep canvassing, and it came out of the LGBTQ AA plus community, LGBTQ community in San Francisco years ago. Who were activists who were looking at basically how to change people's minds about a particular, it was a particular bill. I think it was called Prop 8. I think that's the one that is coming to mind.
Proposition 8.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes.
And maybe, I don't quite remember when it was. Maybe it was the early 2000s, maybe 2007. I can't. Anyway, we can look it up and it'll be in the show notes. But they did and they've developed this technique which is now being studied. And it came out of them realizing that it didn't matter what facts they gave. People would hold on to the things they were... So these are people who aren't scientists. They're just people going around knocking on doors, canvassing. And canvassing, so political canvassing, has one of the worst reputations for doing anything to convince people of something else. Like it is that the idea that you knock on someone's door and then they suddenly go, oh yeah, you're right, I'm going to vote for you now. Like it's that is just not a thing. And so what this extraordinary group of people have done and are doing, called deep canvassing, is they do a simple thing, which is when they get really good at it, they can get a feel very early on for where the person is at. But they'll say, on a scale from 0 to 10, how likely are you to vote for this particular, in this case, Prop 8? And the person might say 6. And they'll say, oh, that's interesting. Why a 6 and not a 5? Or why a 6 and not a 7? And as soon as the person's asked to think about what it is, how it is that they got to where they are, it just gets them thinking. You're not telling them what to think or why they're wrong. You're just saying, that's a gentle way of asking someone to think about where they stand on something. And then what they do, it's just so beautiful, is it's just to find a hook for a story where they'll be listening to something they'll say and it'll be something about something that happened to them when they were really young, something that's connected. And they say, could you tell me more about that? And you've basically installed the idea that there's some thought to be had about the number, where they're at, and then also a personal story. And it's enough within 10, 20 minutes for this person to go, you know what, I think I'm a 9 now, I'm going to vote for, whatever. And so they obviously...
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's got nothing to do with saying, if only you saw the world the way I see it. It's saying, how is it that you see the world? And why is it you see the world in this way?
Oh, so it's not about trying to convince people of the rightness of your perspective.
Absolutely not.
Acknowledging their perspective and giving space to it and then allowing them to potentially step into a contrary perspective than the one that they thought they held.
Yep, and exactly. And it's not yes or no either. It's also based on the number, which is so much more nuanced, of course. It's like, you're either... Because none of us are... Very rarely are we either this or that. There's always some grey in there. And yeah,
Which is what makes referendums so weird, isn't it? Or referenda.
Referendums? Referendi?
I think it might be referenda. I'm not sure. Anyway, yes, so just to save you having to write this in the show notes, Proposition 8 was in 2008, and it was in California.
Gay marriage.
It was about same-sex marriage, exactly. Yeah, and it was the proposition was to effectively outlaw same-sex marriage, or even though it had already been passed into law at that point, and I think it was voted in...
I think they lost. Yeah, they lost. And I think that's part
I'm trying to say in favour of, but the other way around.
Yeah, I think the LGBT community effectively lost, and I think that's part of what happened. I need to look it up again, but that's part of what happened where they went, this is not working. We need to figure out how to make this work. But they're really... What's really interesting, I also found, they also don't shy away from saying, I believe this. So it's not like they're saying, I have a... they're not denying their own opinion on something, but they're listening so closely to where the story is for the person about how it is that they got to be. And of course, many people don't, I think I can't remember that. They sort of took 1 in 5, 1 in 10. The facts don't matter in this case. But isn't it beautiful, that just simple thing? Nothing to do with providing evidence, none of that.
It's fascinating, the idea that listening to somebody's perspective without judgment can potentially change their perspective.
I mean, when you put it like that, you go, well, duh.
I know, but it's... I know but it does. It sort of runs counter to how we're taught.
It totally, and also about the kind of rationalism as well, which is this thing about if you've just got the facts, and a friend of mine who's probably listening, the sort of joke about facts don't have, what is it? Facts don't have feelings or don't care about feelings, and it puts a lie to that idea actually that the facts are, we hold on to opinions and we all do it, regardless of what the facts are, because we're so strongly holding on to our identity based on those particular kinds of opinions.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to, doesn't it? It comes down to how we feel we are, or who we feel we are, through the things that we align ourselves with.
Yeah, who we feel we are is beautiful. Yeah. Anyway, so I'd totally recommend it as a book. I mean, it's a book about science, really, but it's fascinating, totally fascinating. And he's a really good writer. He's a science writer in the sense, one of those people that comments on science. He's not a scientist.
Yeah. Well, that was a fascinating insight into your week.
Yeah, the other thing I've been doing, of course, which is I am surveying pizza hydration levels throughout Italy. They do seem to be pretty connected to 80%. Very, very curious.
Okay. Is that the wrong ratio for you?
Well, I'd go a little. I'd be thinking higher.
I really like that you're telling the Italians how to make pizza.
I haven't told them. I'm just on the inside. On the inside, I'm rolling my eyes at this towel.
You're eating it and going, God, this should be 88%.
This is dry as... Yeah. 80%, just for listeners, 80% hydration means that for whatever quantity of flour you've got, 80% of it is water. So if you've got 100 grams of flour, 80 grams of water.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Just to be clear.
I want to hear from everyone who cares about that.
Literally, nobody
I
cares.
bet you there are people
care.
listening that care about that.
If they care, they don't need you to explain it to them.
It's true. It's pretty fucking obnoxious. I'm trying.
It's not. It's cute as a button, and you know it.